Hello and welcome to the Risky Business Podcast. I'm Sam Stone. I'm sitting down with people who I have seen take big risks in their life. My goal is to encourage you, challenge you, and push you to take a risk, whatever that may be in your life. Risky business. Let's get risky. Here we go. All right, welcome to the Risky Business Podcast. I am very excited for our guest today. Here I have Mr. Joey Wagner, who is a friend for over the last year or so. We first met, and as I got on Instagram, like most people do, and would look at, wait, who is this guy? I remember I remember the first time I looked on Instagram, I had seen you like 10 different places, and I was like, who is Joey Wagner? Which I'm sure you probably hear a bunch, because I'm like, I'm so confused. This guy is everywhere. This guy knows everybody. This guy is on the field at every game. This guy is doing everything. And I was like, who is this guy? So I reached out to you. You were nice enough to say yes to a random kid reaching out to take you to coffee. And you were very kind to me. So thank you for coming in.
No, you're welcome, man.
Honored to sit down with you and get to know you more and hear about the risk you've taken in life.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously, man, I've known your dad for a long time. So he's been, super important to my life just through Southeast and stuff. So yeah, when you reached out, I was like, yeah, I'll definitely spend some time with you, man.
Dude,
so it was great.
You're super kind. Yeah, I don't even remember when the first time. Obviously, most of the listeners to this are probably going to be Louisville based. And so the first time I saw it, I'm like, who is this guy? So Answer the question in short, or you can take as long as you want to. Who is Joey Wagner? You don't have to dig into everything yet. We'll get there. But who is Joey Wagner? Who is this guy?
I'll give you the long story short. I'm an entrepreneur living in here in Louisville, Kentucky. I was born and raised here in Louisville. Grew up in Fern Creek. We'll always claim that. My parents still live there in Fern Creek, but, went through that whole track of like going to Fern Creek Elementary, Newburgh Middle, Fern Creek High School, obviously a JCPS kid. After I graduated high school, went and played baseball at Morehead State University, got my undergraduate in communications, got my master's in sports marketing, then moved back to Louisville. And, I think like now to what we do with a lot of our businesses, we've got a couple different ones. We have J. Wagner Group, which is our full service events, marketing, public relations, multimedia company. We have the Be Seen agency that I'm a partner with, which is more of like a brand ambassadors, marketing agency. And then I'm invested in a ton of companies here locally and kind of internationally with some other friends. But yeah, I fell in love in college, with just the event side and marketing side. It's crazy. I started DJing in college. I just love music. And, when I was DJing at, bars or clubs, like I literally fell in love with getting people to one place. And it was a challenge for me. Like, how many people can I get here tonight? One place. And that was something that, 25 years later, I'm still doing. And it's been cool to see because like the longevity and like, obviously how big it's crazy. Like people talk about influencers now and, and I guess I am one, which it is what it is. I hate that word, but like we were doing a lot of those things before there was influencers, right? Working with brands and, doing different deals. But yeah, I fell in love with that side of the business in college. And when I moved back to Louisville, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My mom and dad were like, hey, you can live here in the house to save money, but you got to get a job. So, I knew in my degrees, I wanted to do something with marketing and sports and events, but, like there really wasn't anything that stood out to me when I got back. So I had to get a job, and a good friend of mine, Paul Knopp, he was working at a mortgage company called First Commonwealth Mortgage. And my first job out of college was selling mortgages. And like now today, it was great that I did it because like it helped me buy my first house and, and all of that. But like, I hated that job. Like, like literally like it was my 9 to 5, it was paying my bills, but like I knew I wanted to do events. So I literally walked into this bar in the Highlands called the Blue Martini, which is no longer there, but it was like down by Baxter Jacks and the volleyball. And I walked in just to pop my head, and I asked for the manager, and I was like, hey, what's your worst night of the week? And he was like, well, who are you? And I was like, my name's Joey Wagner. I'm an event planner, a promoter, whatever you want to call it. Like, I would love to help you guys with some events. Like we have a good little team, and like, we'd love to help. And he was like, well, how much do I have to pay you? And I was like, you don't have to pay me anything. Like, just give us a drink tab, let us drink for free, but we can show you what we can do, and then we'll kind of go from there. So he was cool with that. So me and my boys, man, like this was pre-social media. Mm-hmm. So like,
what year was this?
This was probably 2003. Yeah, so 21 years ago, I guess. This was pre-social media. This was, like we were out 7 nights a week. We were flyering cars. We were doing posters on telephone poles.
Wow.
This was like, I mean, there was really not even text messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were calling people and inviting them to our events. So me and my boys, we kind of hit the streets, 7 days a week. There was like a different place to go to every single night. And we just started telling people about this party we were going to do in a month at the Blue Martini. And fast forward, like our first party at Blue Martini sold out. It did like 700 people.
Wow.
And like after the event, the owner and the general manager was like, what other nights can you help us with? So then we started helping them with Friday and Saturday nights. And the biggest night we actually ended up doing, because we were going out every single night, we were meeting all the bartenders and the servers. So we started a service industry night on Mondays at the Blue Martini called Sin Night, right? Service industry. And it was like the bartenders and servers Friday and Saturday night, but it was on a Monday because they were working the whole weekend. Our first Sin Night did like 1,100 people. And like, I was like, all right, we're on to something. Like, this is something that I love. We've kind of figured it out. It's easier for me in Louisville when I did it in Moorhead, because Moorhead's such a small town, but I'm from Louisville. I know a lot of people, and I was meeting so many people out, going out every night. And, obviously I'd come into work at the mortgage company either hungover.
So you were working the mortgage company while you were starting this all at the same time?
Yeah, like I was literally coming into the mortgage company like either hungover or like just tired, right? And it's funny, like PA would always say to me like, late night, huh? But like it paid off because like I learned how to hustle. I learned how to, just network. I learned how to just meet more people. And, I did that with them for probably 6 months. And then I got the call that kind of changed my life in the event planning. So I'll never forget, I was driving down the Watterson Expressway. A guy named Dan Smith called me at the time. He was the CEO of Jillian's. I know you're probably too young to remember Jillian's, but Jillian's was like the first ever like Dave & Buster's or main event, right?
Yeah.
It was based here out of Louisville, but they had like locations all over the country. I mean, major cities, but the world headquarters was here in Louisville. So Dan called me, he was like, hey man, this was probably like 10 in the morning. He was like, hey, you're making a lot of waves in the city with your events and the marketing and stuff. Can you be in my office today at 2:00? And I was like, well, who are you? And he was like, well, I'm the CEO of Jillian's. And obviously I'd heard of Jillian's because I'd been going there for shows or events, and it was a place you could eat lunch. So I was like, yeah, I'll come meet with you. What do you want to talk about? He's like, I just want you to come to my office. I was like, cool. So in that meeting was Dan Smith, CEO, Bobby Burke, who was the national like promotions director, and then Eric Sanford, who was like the national marketing director. And still to this day, Bobby Burke is one of my best friends. He's one of my mentors. He helped me get to where I am today. If I don't get that phone call, I'm not sure I am where I am today. So basically Dan was just like, we want to hire you. So he gave me my first job like that I liked. Like it was like $19,000 a year, dude. But I didn't care because it got me out of the mortgage company. But basically my whole job was, during the day, my 9 to 5 was, if you walked into Jillian's and there was like the little fishbowl where you check in, right? It's like drop your business card in and you could win a happy hour.
Yeah.
All I did all day long was call people on business cards and say, hey, you want a happy hour at Jillian's? Come in for some half price appetizers, free pool, free video games, etc. But what that job taught me was the networking, right? And that's so key now. Like when I speak all over the country and I teach all over the country, like it's funny, I say like, I love music, right? So like Jay-Z's greatest line that I love is your network is greater than your net worth. And that's so important to me. Like my network is so much bigger than my net worth because we can get to anybody because of what we've done. And like that helped me, that job helped me build that network. But then when I negotiated with Dan, I was like, look, the 9 to 5's cool, but like I want to be doing events at night, right? Because I can make more money. And he was like, no, that's what we want you to do. So in Jillian's in the basement, they had a club called Atlas, which was like nightclub / live music venue. But what that job taught me, I got to learn from Dan, I got to learn from Bobby, I got to learn from Eric, how to put together events, how to do marketing plans, how to do P&Ls, how to do sponsorships. And like we were still throwing parties in Atlas and under my own separate company and starting to make money. But major shows came through Jillian's and Atlas. Major shows, man. All these artists would play there before they became big. So we were getting to see how those shows work. We got to work with those artists. And then everything that changed for me, and it's still to this day, is the Kentucky Derby.
Okay, I got to cut you off for a second first, because you're the easiest person to interview in the world, because I've asked one question and we're 9 minutes in. But here's what I would say.
Yeah.
For a listener listening right now, driving in their car, they have a dream. And what I just heard you say is, I got my dream job that was the thing that changed everything for me. And it was a job that paid $19,000 a year, where you had to all day pull business cards out of a hat and cold call people. And you're sitting here to where, like you said, your network is like no one I've ever seen based on, I literally look up and I'm like, oh, he's with Jack Harlow on the sideline. Oh, he's like every single time I open up Instagram, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm not surprised. So, but you got to that place because, like you said, your network is greater than your net worth. And it's like, you got to that place because you took a dream job, quote unquote, that was $19,000 a year to pull cards out of a fishbowl and cold call all day.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I feel like my generation misses. We think of a dream job as, okay, I need to go get a call to make six figures when I'm 25 to have 3 weeks vacation every year, maybe 4 weeks paid vacation, get a car stipend, and that's my dream job. And it's like, did you always have that mindset?
Yeah, I think so. For me, it wasn't about the money. It was me getting out of the mortgage company, which I hated, and still to this day, and, telling people that are listening, like, you might not wake up every single day and love your job, right? But you need to work as hard as you can till that day comes. And, every day that I wake up now, I can't wait to go to my office, like, because I'm working on some amazing things. But two things I ask myself every single day. I look in the mirror and I say, one, how can I make myself better? And two, how can I make someone else better? And like, that is still true to this day and important. And I think that when I took that, that first job, I knew it was finally something that I wanted to do. And, fast forward through the Jillians and, we started building this little brand. And, obviously I had this like whole nickname as J-Dub, and our first company was J-Dub Entertainment. But as it grew and like all these different companies and liquor brands and beer brands, and we started working with Red Bull, and like they all wanted to be a part of our events because we kind of had the, the who's who crowd, or you can call it the cool crowd or whatever, right, at these events. And, that's when for me, the light just switched on that I was like, all right, I'm going to do this full time. And like, that's what we did. And, I did that at Jillian's for about 5 years. And then Stephen Foster, who created Jillian's, he called me and said, hey, we're opening up this new street at downtown Louisville called 4th Street Live. I'm going to have 2 new venues in them, Lucky Strike Lanes and Felt, which is an upscale pool hall. I want you to leave Jillian's. I want you to come down there and help me run them. So I said, sure. Made more money. At that time, I was probably making $40,000 a year. But then same thing, I'm going to double dip. I want to do parties at night. I mean, I was making more money off my events than I was making off my salary. Because, when you're a promoter, you control the door, you get a percentage off liquor sales, et cetera, et cetera. So I did that at 4th Street Live for probably 5 or 6 years, but then I made the best decision of my life, the worst decision of my life. And basically I was like, all right, I'm making all these other people money. Like, I should probably open up my own venue, right? And have my own venue and make all the money. Well, it's easier said than done. So we opened up our own venue downtown called Prime Lounge. It was great. I mean, I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money, right? When you own a venue, you don't realize like how much the electric bill is. And you start looking at, P&Ls and, the toilet overflows and how much that cost and, staffing and HR things like, so once again, that job and me owning that venue helped me get me where I am today because it made me learn all the back end stuff of owning a business and running a business, right? It's not all the glitz and glamour that people see on my Instagram or, on my social media. Like, man, there's days that, things just go wrong, right? Or it doesn't turn out great. And you just have to be able to adjust from that. And, I know you asked me this question the other day, and, I say this all the time, and I speak like, I was teaching at U of L, and we'll get into that, but like, I speak all over the country, and like, I look at this younger generation, and the very first thing I say to them is that I hope every single person in this room fails. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, seriously. Like, if you don't fail, you're never going to be successful. And I failed a lot, right? And I'm really good at what I do now, but I'm probably going to fail again. And I have to be okay with that. This younger generation, when they fail, they think it's the end of the world and they like, oh my God, my life's over. Like, no, like you need to take a failure, learn from it, and turn it into a success. And I think for me, like me learning at a young age when I was 24, 25, and I was doing shows and I was working with middlemen and I lost $30,000 in a night on a concert, like it made me who I am today. It taught me how to not work with a middleman. It taught me how to never do an event without seeing the venue. It taught me to, not sure to make sure people were backdooring me on just like certain prices and price gouging me. So like you have to make mistakes. And I think that younger generation, man, like you said, like they get it twisted sometimes. Like they're like, oh, I can't fail. I got to be perfect, et cetera. And then, they never become successful because of that. But that's so important. You got to learn to fail.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes is just fail fast.
Yeah, 100%.
Like if you can fail, if you can learn what you're not good at, obviously it's the thing we've heard 1,000 times. Edison didn't find out one way to make a light bulb. He found out 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb, and it led to the one that made it. And so the failing fast, if he would have tried 5,000 times, we never would have had light bulbs. And so it's like, with my generation, I feel like we get like you just said, we feel like we have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Rather than like, obviously, I think social media does that. It's like a when you grew up, there wasn't a camera in your face. There wasn't your mistakes weren't shared to everybody as quickly. And so it's like, I feel like now we're fighting an uphill battle, but on the flip side, it makes it to, if you are willing to fail, you're such an abnormal person in your 20s and 30s that it stands out, I feel like.
No doubt. And they have to get that, man. You got to learn to fail. So don't get upset when you fail. But yeah, so I did the Prime Lounge stuff for a long time, but around 2013, I knew I had to like change, not say my image, but like the brand, right? We were still under J-Dub Entertainment, and I was sitting in all these meetings finally with CMOs and CEOs, and I would say my company was J-Dub Entertainment, and they would kind of look at me weird. So like in 2013, we switched everything over to J. Wagner Group, which is still today the name of the agency. And then I just kind of hit the ground running, man. Like I knew when we ended up selling the building at Prime, like that's what I was doing. I was like, you know what? I want to continue to work for myself. I want to control my own destiny. I'm going to hustle till, until I make it, right? Even more. And, like my parents, they both worked in sales for over 30 years. So they taught me how to hustle and grind. And, the harder you work, the more it'll pay off. And, I think for me, I just kept that mentality. Like I had the mentality that every single day, like I'm never going to let anybody outwork me, and period. Like, and I've never changed from that. And the average lifetime of an event planner, promoter, whatever you want to call it, is like 4 years. Like I'm on year 25.
Wow.
And there's a reason for that. And it's like,
what is it?
I think that, customer service is a key to success. The customer's always right, even when the customer's not right, right? And I think that we've had that same mentality, especially on our events, that when we create our events, it's something outside the box that doesn't feel like it's the same thing every single weekend. People have an amazing time when they come, but when they leave, they can't wait to come back to the next one. And we've kind of got that equation down with a lot of our events. And, it's not a typical night at the bar or the club. Like we try to be outside the box, from the decor to the sound to the lighting to the experience. And, like I've kind of like thrown the word, marketing or event planning out. Like on the event planning side, we're in experiential marketing now. Like that's what we do. We want to create an experience. Then on the marketing side, kind of thrown that word out the window. Now we're into brand elevation, right? How can we elevate the brand through marketing, through events? And, what we've done now is we've just kind of created this little niche, and we've got this, this cool little like following with all of our stuff. And it's been cool to see. But, when you get into like where we've been over the last couple of years and how we've hit the ground running, like basically made those mistakes again. And, like I started as an agency, after I like kind of got Prime, someone in locally wanted to buy J. Wagner Group because it was obviously making a lot of noise. And I went and met with the person. They put an offer on the table for J. Wagner Group, and they wanted to own 100% of the business. And I would have really no creative control. And I called a good friend of mine, Danielle Davis, who owns Lemonade PR here locally now. And I said, hey, I want you to look at this deal and just give me some feedback. And she's like, actually, we'll come over to the new PR firm that I'm at, meet with me and Bob, the owner, and, just see what we think, right? So I was like, cool. So I'll go over there and meet with them at Boxcar, and, I basically kind of slid the deal across the table to Bob and Danielle, and Bob kind of slid it back. And he was like, look, dude, I don't want to buy your company. Like, what is it going to take for you to come work for us? I was like, okay. So like, long story short, we worked out a deal. I was working at Boxcar, as a salary employee, but then I still kept J. Wagner Group. Moved my offices from J. Wagner Group downtown out to Boxcar. I'll never forget, we don't have to get too deep into it, but that very first day at Boxcar, I found out with crazy NDAs that we got Muhammad Ali's funeral through J. Wagner Group. So, that was an event that changed my life. I'll be forever indebted to Bob and Boxcar for that. And, that one just more of helped me mold me working at that PR agency, because I'd really never done PR, but it learned me how to do PR, how to write press releases, how to work with the media, because all of that stuff is so important with events, right? So everything just kind of came together. I did that job for probably like 5 or 6 years. there. It was awesome. And then, I got a call from a good friend of mine, Gordy Beck, that I grew up with in Fern Creek. And he was like, hey, man, I'm expanded my collection agency company to Louisville, Kentucky, and I need a CMO. Would you be interested? And I was like, look, man, I'm doing a lot right now. Like J. Wagner Group's starting to grow. Like, I'm willing to maybe help you out as a consultant or like, something. And he was like, well, here's my job offer. And he like offered me a lot of money. And it made sense. So I went and did that as a CMO of his company, but I still kept J. Wagner Group. At that time, I had one other employee at J. Wagner Group, Madison, who's still with us today as a partner, and with my other company, Be Seen. And I did that for 6 months. And I'll never forget, craziest story, within a month at DCI, the owner of the company passed away. And then the other owner of the company had a heart attack and died. And then like everything just went flip side with the company.
Wow.
And I was on vacation with my family. I got the phone call that we basically got let go. And I got like, let's not say fired. I guess I kind of did. But like, they cleaned house with everybody. And once again, learning lesson. I tried to help a friend, do a favor for somebody. And that was the final straw for me. I was like, I will never work for anyone else.
What year was that?
That was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow.
But I still had J. Wagner Group. So I was still, doing all that stuff on the side.
5 or 6 years ago, right before 2020.
Yeah. It was
Tell
right
me
before-
about COVID, because that had to be, for somebody that does
Yeah.
event planning,
Yeah.
and I mean, you're still around today. So obviously you took some risk and you made some big changes or else
Yeah.
you did something risky
COVID.
to get through that season.
COVID helped me and hurt me.
Wow.
COVID to this day it's kind of crazy, but it helped grow our business. And I'll get into that so right before COVID happened and I lost that job at DCI, I basically just leaned into a bunch of my mentors. So Brooke Smith, who's a serial entrepreneur here in Louisville, is one of my close friends, mentors, and now business partners. I've got Rick Keeber, who owns Planet Fitness in Suntan City. I have Jonathan Blue, who gave me my first job out of college, helping with a lot of events on the side when I was side hustling at the mortgage company. And then like I started asking him questions like, this is what I want to do. What do you think? Like, I grew up like, with my family was like, we weren't rich, right? Middle-class family. So, but I'd never had a loan for J. Wagner Group or any of my businesses. I've never borrowed money. I've never had an investor. It's been all hustle and grind, man. But I knew at some point for me to get to where I wanted to get, I needed some capital to grow. And that was the feedback I was getting from some of those mentors. So I go and met with Brooke, and basically, long story short, Brooke bought 25% of J. Wagner Group, which gave me some capital to hire some of the best people in the city of Louisville to grow our team. We built our offices on this, over off River Road on the first floor below Brooke's offices, and we hit the ground running. That was probably 2019.
Wow.
Late 2019. And then I hired my third employee at J. Wagner Group, Blair Johnson, who's still with me today. And COVID hits 2020. And I'm like, oh man, we lost a 6-figure event business. We lost a 6-figure derby business. And at first we were just like, what do we do? But once again, that mentality of hustling, like, I'm not going to sit there and get upset. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm not going to like be down in the dumps. Like, we got to figure it out. I got an overhead now, right? Yeah. And thankfully I just did sell my company. So I had some money saved and stuff like that for the rainy days if stuff did go sideways, which COVID kind of did at first. But we basically got creative. And, I say this all the time, like, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, but we do amazing things. And I have my team, I put them up against anybody. So like, we have some of the most creative people in the country on our team. And so basically we created online events, and that's never been done because you never had to do them. So we were doing, corporate or charity events for a lot of clients, like actual events before COVID. But a lot of these charities, they depended on their charity events to raise money for the foundation, to pay for their budget, to pay for their P&L, to pay for their people. So I literally came up with an idea. We're going to create a virtual events division at J. Wagner Group. We put out a press release, sent it to Business First. It goes, in Business First, and it kind of went crazy. People started calling me like, Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you do this? So at the time we were doing some multimedia stuff with like videography and different things. So I literally created this virtual event business, and we did it for about a year of just getting creative, like doing, we would, create a website. We would record this video, this online video for these charities. We would do giveaways. We would do, silent auction, live auction, but it would all be online based for these nonprofits. And we just had to get creative. And, we didn't get rich off of it, but it helped us get through the COVID time, and it helped pay our bills, and we just figured it out. But before COVID, we went full agency at J. Wagner Group. So events, marketing, PR, multimedia. So we were still doing some social media management, some social media marketing for some clients that, were doing okay during COVID. So we were straight. But the one thing that COVID changed, helped me grow so much, was where we are today. And what that means is COVID made a lot of these major companies that we work with today go through their budgets and look at their P&L and go, we're paying this agency in Chicago, New York, Miami, LA, how much? We're paying this event planner how much? We're paying this marketing director how much? So people had to cut budgets. So when those budgets got cut, these companies that we had relationships with reached out to me and was like, hey, can we hire you as an agency and outsource the work to you? So COVID changed everything for me.
Wow.
After that first year. And it's crazy still to this day. I mean, my biggest client right now, both of our companies, is Beam Suntory, which owns Maker's Mark, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden, ton of liquor brands. Because what did everybody do during COVID? They drank.
Sat at home.
They sat at home and drank, right? So liquor sales went through the roof.
Yeah.
So like right before COVID too, we had just started a new company called the B Scene Agency, which is like a brand ambassador agency. So like if you walk into Kroger, Total Wine, Liquor Barn, mom and pop liquor store, and you see a guy and a girl sampling like Tito's or Maker's Mark or Knob Creek, like those are our employees. So we have about 180 brand ambassadors in that company right now. We have the entire state of Kentucky. We have 3 full-time employees. Madison Hardy's my business partner in that company, who started with me at J. Wagner Group. She's still a partner at J. Wagner Group. And that business has exploded. I mean, it's still to this day, it's growing like crazy. But I don't know if that business doesn't explode without COVID.
Wow. I've definitely walked in and tried something that was there. I'm like going in to get a client gift
or
something, and they're like, hey, you want to try this one? And it's something I never would have bought. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't bad. I'll go get one of those.
Yeah. So now like it's been a blessing. So the company's changed a little bit since COVID with J. Wagner Group. We still do some of our own events where we put up the money, we pay for the budget, we go get sponsors, we sell tickets, we take a risk, right? Event planning is a risk.
Yeah.
If you don't sell tickets, you don't make money. If you don't sell sponsors, you don't make money. We've got that equation down pretty good, but it's still a risk. I'm still going to have anxiety when I'm in the red. I'm praying we get in the green, right? And that's just the life of an event planner. You're going to have crazy anxiety and stress until you get in the green. So
Tell me about Derby.
Yeah, so we do New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
Which we have, coming up, and we do Derby, where it is like we take the risk, and that for Derby has turned into a full business. So under J. Wagner Group, we have a concierge company called DerbyVIP.com, where we take care of high net worth clients, celebrities, athletes, Derby sponsors, etc. And the reason why we started that business is because my Derby parties 25 years ago, this is going to be my 25th Derby, which is crazy. The Derby parties kept getting bigger and bigger, and the celebrities started coming, and I started building relationships with the celebrities, and I started building relationships with the athletes. And then it's just like, you name it, they were there, right? But the main reason why we started Derby VIP is because of what we do with Churchill Downs and what we do at the Derby. So many people were calling me like, hey, I got your name from this person. I got your name from this person. So it gets back to that network, right?
Yeah,
that network has gotten so big at the Derby, and people were calling me like, hey, I hear you're the guy at the Derby. I hear you're the guy with this. Can I get in this party? Can I get in there? And they were asking me what was going on. Like, what do we have going on for the Derby? And every time, like pre-technology, it was like, shoot me a text, your email address, and I'll email you our schedule, right? Well, it got so annoying that I was getting those calls so much. I was like, all right, we're creating a website. We're going to have everything there. So now when someone calls me, go to the website, derbyvip.com. You can check out every single thing we do. We do, access to the best events, which we run, right? We have, house rentals. We work with hotels. You could have a private chef. We do transportation for celebrities and athletes. Like whatever you need at the Derby, if you need a jet, we'll make it happen, right? So anything from A to Z at the Derby, we make happen. So now it's turned into a big business, and we've done it for so long now that we've been blessed to have repeat customers every single year. They keep coming back. But for me, the Derby has changed my life, and it's a blessing that I still get to work with Churchill Downs as they're a client now, and we both have the same goals. I want to continue to make the Kentucky Derby better and bigger. Louisville is so blessed to have the Kentucky Derby. Like, it's never going to change. It's never going to go away, right? The Super Bowl changes cities every year. NBA All-Star Weekend changes cities every year. Like, a lot of
those move around.
Yeah, they move around. Like, Derby's not.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, we're going to invest my time, my money, my energy into the Derby to continue to grow with that. And that's why we work so well with Churchill, because they know I have that same mentality of them to continue to make Derby bigger. And now it's gotten so big that, you know, I have 2 suites now and we host a ton of people and, you know, we have all these different events. And, you know, originally when I was starting at the Blue Martini, we were doing a one Derby party on a Saturday night. And really Derby was just Friday, Saturday night. Mm-hmm. Well, now over the past 20-something years,
Wednesday,
we started a whole week.
Is that because of you?
I have a lot to do with it. I mean, I'll be honest, but like we've helped extend that week on the party side, right? So now our parties kick off on Wednesday. I have a concept I own, which you've probably heard of, called Jocktails.
Yeah.
Celebrity charity bartending event that we do on the Wednesday of Derby week. It's the hardest ticket of the week to get because you can't pay to get in. Yeah. It's invite only. It raises money for the permanently disabled jockeys fund.
How many people come to that?
Probably 800. We do that at the Ice House. All the Kentucky Derby's jockeys bartend for charity. And we raise that money for the PDJF, which is an amazing organization, nonprofit that helps the jockeys with their medical bills when they get injured. I mean, we've raised so much money for them. I mean, it's crazy. I think this year's our 17th annual Jocktails.
Wow.
Like, events don't get past 3 or 4 years sometimes. Yeah. And like, we're on year 17 of Jocktails. But
okay, so I heard a story one time of I can't imagine the stories you have also. But some you probably can't share. But I heard a story one time that there was something about Michael Jordan smoking a cigar somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Is that one you can tell or remember?
I can tell that one. So we were at Felt down at 4th Street Live, and this is probably the most iconic party we've ever done at the Derby. And I'll never forget, I got a call from Michael's head of security. He was like, hey, Michael wants to come out to the party. We need a table.
And he just has your number?
I mean, they got my number from somebody, right?
That's wild.
And we were sold out. I was like, well, this is Michael Jordan. I got to figure this out.
We'll find space for you.
I'll never forget. Like, so Terrell Owens, who played in the NFL, became a great friend of mine through the Derby. And I went to TO and I was like, hey man, MJ's coming. We're going to need to use your table for him. And he didn't care because he was actually a Jumpman athlete at the time in the NFL. So he was sponsored by Jordan. So he was like, no problem. But like, I was like dreading having to go ask him like, hey, kind of bumping you out of this table, but Michael's going to be here. So one of the coolest moments ever in my Derby history, and we still talk about it all the time, but I'll never forget, we bring him into the back door, and dude, I've never in my entire life seen a party shut down like that, where everything just stopped. Like, it's Michael Jordan. It's one of the greatest athletes of all time, and everyone just stopped and watched him walk in. I mean, it was crazy. I'll never forget, I turned around, and I saw like 3 or 4 people literally take the Jordans off their feet, and we're like holding them in the air. Like, it's such an image that fits in my head to this day. And Michael comes in, you know, dap him up, take him to the table, et cetera, et cetera. He's in the party. He's having a good time. I think Vice was DJing. But, like, at that time, we had Wayne Gretzky, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union, Michael Jordan, Terrell Owens, Kid Rock. I mean, major celebrities there that night. I mean, it was an iconic event. And I'll never forget, it was about an hour in. And this was right after the smoking ban happened in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in Louisville, you can't smoke in bars anymore.
I still remember when I'd have to go get restaurants, my parents were like, go ask for a table of non-smoking.
Oh, yeah. Or you'd have to take 5 showers when I got home because I smelled like smoke. I was so glad when it happened. But Michael comes up to me. He was like, Joey, he's like, hey, can I smoke this cigar in the club? I'm like, yeah, bro, you can do whatever you want. Like, I don't care if we get caught. If we get a fine, I will pay the fine for Michael Jordan to smoke a cigar in the party. So yeah, that was legendary. And it's cool. Like, I had seen Michael, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and he remembered that. And that was pretty cool for me. So I mean, there's so many of those stories, man, at the Derby. But, you know, it's a blessing. Last year was the 150th Kentucky Derby. We did a really amazing partnership with Authentic Brands Group, who's one of probably the largest company in sports and entertainment right now. They're out of New York City. We built that relationship with them because they own the IP to Muhammad Ali. The Ali family sold part of that to ABG out of New York. I mean, they own iconic companies, man. You got to look them up. I mean, they own Reebok, they own Brooks Brothers. I mean, they own like 100 brands. Wow. And they own Sports Illustrated. So they contacted me at Derby probably about a couple years ago, and we started working on it. And they were like, we want to bring a Sports Illustrated brand to the Derby. And they had built this brand back when they bought it, and they were doing iconic parties at the Super Bowl and NBA All-Star Weekend and with F1. And they said, just like we do with like Super Bowl and F1, we want to bring a Sports Illustrated party to the Kentucky Derby. But what we do with F1, we partner actually with the track and we build like a club SI at the track. Do you think we could do that at Churchill? And I was like, well, yeah, they're my client. Let's reach out to them, et cetera. And it was just like perfect timing. And like they had built the new like paddock area, and there's two sides. There's the one of like the bourbon lounges on one side, and then there was the other side that they were looking for naming rights. So it was like perfect timing. So long story short, we did a 3-year deal with Churchill Downs. So it's called, the Club SI at the track. And then we did the Sports Illustrated party on Friday night. So we have a 3-year deal with them right now. We're doing it for the second year this year, but last year's party was iconic. It was probably the biggest one we've ever done at the Derby. I mean, I was telling my wife the other day, like, that was the first moment in a long time that I literally looked around and just did a 360. And I was kind of choked up, man. I'll be honest with you. Like, I was teared up. I was like, dude, we've came a long way. Like, my first Derby party had like 50 people. I got the Chainsmokers on stage right now playing. I got Travis Kelce here. I got Aaron Rodgers here. I've got Alex Earl here. I've got, billionaires here. Like, it literally, like, it was crazy, man. Like, I literally did that 360 and I was like, all right. It was so humbling for me that, like, we've came a long way from DJing in a bar in Moorhead, Kentucky. And, like, for me now, it's always like, what's next? Like, what do I want to do next? And, so we've been very blessed over the past couple years to grow our business. Between the two companies, we have 9 full-time employees, which is amazing. And at Wagner Group, we're working on some exciting stuff, obviously with Beam. We do all their experiential, so all their events, from Bourbon and Beyond to Louder Than Life to a music festival to a bourbon festival. We have the Beam Distillery contract now, so we're doing all of the events at the Beam Distillery, which has been awesome over the past year. JCPS is one of our big clients. I'm a JCPS kid, wow. So I love having them as a client. We do Showcase of Schools, which is one of their biggest events of the year. We have the city contract now, which we just got done with that for the first year. So we get to work with Mayor Greenberg. We took over World Fest, Light Up Louisville, Hike, Bike, and Paddle, and the Marathon Race Series. We just finished Light Up Louisville a few weeks ago, and we crushed it, man. It was awesome. So we have that contract now. And then obviously, like, the Derby just keeps getting bigger. So, we've been very, very blessed to be able to do things that I want to do and work with people that I want to do. I'll be honest, the hardest thing that I've ever had to learn is how to say no. And that took me a long time because I got a big heart. I want to help everybody. But where we are now, it's like the first time ever that, like, I'm turning business down, and, like, I have to tell people no, because I really want to focus on those clients that, that keep us busy and make sure we continue to elevate them and make sure we continue to make them better.
Wow. I mean, there's so many things. I think as I go back to the person listening to this, I don't want to let them forget that it's like, okay, obviously, if you want to be a promoter, Joey Wagner is who you want to emulate. And I think I go back to that story of you doing a 360 and looking around and getting choked up at, wow, look where I've come from 50 people in Moorhead to this. And I rewind back further to you saying, I wake up every day with 2 things. I want to get better, and I want to make people's lives better.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy for us to go, okay, I want to get better and I want to make my life better.
Yeah.
And if you would have gone in with those 2 aspects of I want to get better, I want to make my life better, you could have changed things in a different way. But I promise you, if you're not focusing on other people all the time, you're not going to be in the situation where you're like, well, look at all these people I've brought together.
Yeah. And I think for me, my mentality is you're only as good as your team. So I want to make them better. Right? I want to change their lives. Like, I want to use my network and work as hard as I can if the company's making more money, everybody's making more money, right? It's not the money. It's not about the money for me. Like, me seeing one of my staff members buy a new car, me seeing one of my staff members buy a house, like, that's the joy I get as a leader, as a boss, because I know how hard I've worked and I know how hard they've worked for me to be able to get there. And I think that's so important. And, like, you said that the younger generation, like, that's probably my favorite thing to do now, is because, 20 something years ago, I had Bobby Burke, who was a mentor. I had Rick, I had Brooke, I had Jay Blue being mentors to me. So now my favorite thing to do is mentor the younger generation. And that's, for 4 years, I taught at U of L, teaching event planning. Me and Dr. Freeberg at U of L, we started the Bird's Nest, which is, an on-campus marketing agency that's giving these kids real life experience and working with amazing clients here around town, like GE and Churchill Downs and Brown Forman and Beam, all these different brands. And Today we have an amazing internship program at J. Wagner Group that, these kids from U of L or Bellarmine, they get real life experience and they get to learn from me and my team. And, I want to continue to give back to them because I was sitting across the desk where they were, right?
Yeah.
And if I can, help them along the way, teach them everything I know, teach them about failure, tell them the mistakes I made, so hopefully they make less mistakes along their way. That's so important to me. And that's why I speak all over the country. And, I'm getting ready to go to Ole Miss in a couple months and speak down there at Ole Miss for a marketing and a PR and events, basically a conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach at Ole Miss, a couple times a year. So I want to continue to do that. And, I know I'm busy, but the one thing I've had to learn since COVID is how to manage my time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have told myself, and I tell this to my younger staff and my interns, if I was your age, I would have learned how to manage my time better. You can't take back time, right? So now as my kids get older and I've been blessed to be able to have more staff to where, I don't have to miss games or horse, back riding competitions and stuff. I manage my time better, but that also has a lot to do with time on learning to say no is managed. But the older I get, I've also had to manage my time, for me personally, right? So I go to the gym every day, right? I'm doing cardio every day. I'm getting in the steam room every day. I'm going straight to a cold shower. That you time is just as important as everything else. So, going back to that time and the time management, me being able to help these kids and give back to them is so important because I want to help, man. That's, it's a special place in my heart to be able to give back because I had a few good people that did that to me and I want to be able to do that to them.
And I think, I know you do NIL stuff too. We're 40 minutes in, so I want to respect your time.
Yeah, no, we're good. We can go all day.
I know I've heard you talk before on just the NIL in Louisville, and obviously you did other places too.
Yeah.
But just the heart you have for pouring into student athletes and helping them to build their brand.
Yeah, and I gave up teaching at U of L to help these kids with NIL. I did it for a couple of years, and now I kind of gave up doing that to get back to working with U of L.
For compliance?
Yeah, it was a compliance issue. That's why I had to give up teaching and working with U of L on the events and stuff. But, NIL has changed everything in college athletics, and I did it for a couple of years, but I just saw how grimy it was, man, and it's changed so much that kids are just saying, this is how much it's going to cost for me to come. And we did it the right way when we were doing it. We taught them about taxes and, and how to manage your money and, and how to invest and, trying to get them deals. But it's changed so much to where the NIL is not about really the deals anymore for the brands. It's more about, hey, you want my son to come play quarterback at U of L? It's $1 million. So I didn't want to get it.
It's nuts.
It's insane.
I pull up stuff and I'm like, what in the world? These people are making $5 million to go play college football.
So when I was involved, it was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
There was a lot of gray area. Now it's a little bit, more organized, but I just realized I didn't want to do that. And my relationship with U of L, helping the students through the Bird's Nest and working back with U of L on events and network and working with Lottie and different things, I knew that was probably a little better fit for me to seeing where the NIL space was going.
You were the MC, correct, for a long time?
Yeah, I MC'd the basketball games for 10 years. And
wow.
That was something that was
What
awesome.
year did you start?
I started the year that the Yum Center opened.
Oh, nice.
And it was awesome. 2013, we won the national championship. I got a ring. Going through that experience was really, really cool. But that, again, that job helped my personal brand, right?
Oh, yeah.
It helped me meet so many more people. I was on a Jumbotron in front of 20,000 people a night. But it was a lot of time. So the older I got and the more I did it, my kids got older. I just wanted to kind of scale back. And then realistically, the reason why I quit is because COVID. Because the year COVID happened and there was nobody at the games. It was my last year I did it. And then obviously with our company growing after COVID, I just knew I didn't want to do anymore. I did 10 years, man. So I was good with that.
That is wild. Yeah, I feel like your life is a long list of small risks, not small, but there's not one giant risk that's here's the risk Joey Wagner took. It is more of just a compilation of risk after risk after risk of you betting on yourself, of you saying that I feel like Joey Wagner is going to outwork somebody, and I feel like Joey Wagner is going to make people, like you said, the two things, make people feel better, and I'm going to work harder. And I feel like as somebody listening to this who's 25 years old, driving down the highway thinking, man, I'm working a 9-to-5 job that I hate, or a job that is hours that I don't love, and I just don't feel like I'm fulfilling. I don't find fulfillment in my life. Obviously, you're a believer, and I know you're at Man Challenge a bunch. Tell me about where you feel like faith has played a role in your life and in your success and growth.
It changed everything, man. During COVID, I was in a bad space, and a lot of people don't know. I mean, a lot of people follow me on social, and they know what happened, but one of my best friends, Chris Beatty, who worked for me for 15 years, he got murdered in Indianapolis. And I was in a dark place, man, after that. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed. Like, I didn't want to do anything. And it was during COVID. He really couldn't leave the house. And, Chris was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was such a great dude. He played football at Indiana. He was coming out of his apartment complex to actually go get a charger out of his car. And this was like when all the protests and the riots were happening downtowns of all these cities. And there was 2 girls, and basically they were getting robbed, and Chris tried to help them, and they shot and killed him. I'll never forget that night I got that call. I mean, I went to my knees, man. I was at my mom and dad's house, and I went straight to my knees, and like, this is somebody I talk to every day, like somebody who is one of my best friends. My brothers worked for me for 15 years. And that was pretty hard. When I was 16 years old, one of my best friends from high school died in a car crash. And so it was like that all over again. But this one was someone who I was way closer with. I mean, family, comes to my house, stays with me when he comes in town. I had been going to Man Challenge for about 6 or 7 years, but man, I was lost. And like, I'll never forget calling like Redmond and E Wood and like a lot of those guys that kind of got me into Man Challenge. And my Man Challenge group, man, like got me out of that dark place. And,
Wow.
Yeah, even your dad, I'll never forget, I went to lunch with your dad and my dad. Cause when you grow up going to Southeast, like, I tell the story all the time. There's 2 people's voices that if I was in a room and it's dark and I heard their voice, I would know who it is. It's Bob Russell and Dave Stone. Because I've heard them for so long, since I was a kid, right? And, I went to lunch with them, and that was cool. But during COVID, I got baptized, and your dad surprised me. He was there. E Wood invited him. So that was really, really cool. But that, man, like the faith of like doing the right things, and just it's part of helping people and making people better, and like praying and stuff. Like, it got me out of those dark times, and it's like constantly helped me to today with everything I do, man, on being a better person, being a better dad, better father, husband, like friend, boss. Like, I constantly am doing that. I mean, we live in a dark world right now, man, with social media, and there's a lot of distractions, but yeah, the Man Challenge, I mean, it changed my life, man.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I know. Yeah. I can't imagine that phone call and all of it. I can't thank you enough for coming. I feel like for when I sat down and started going through people who've taken risk, I didn't even know what your risk was, because it was like, I hadn't heard your whole story, but I was like, man, I know he's had to have taken a good amount of risk to have the keys to the city from the mayor. I saw that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So obviously you've taken so many risks. You're at a place where you're choosing the business you want to take, which is, I think everybody who's in the business world is saying that's their ideal place they want to get to, is I want to choose who I want to work for, and I want to be my own boss. And so I think that just the way that your life has ebbed and flowed in different directions, and taking you to different jobs and taking you to different challenges, I think is really encouraging, and is going to encourage some people to hopefully take some risk.
Yeah. And I think that if you're listening to this right now, like some of the things that I talk about all the time, that has really helped me, like keys to success, are like, communication, right? Communication is a key to success. You got to learn to be a good communicator. One thing I've struggled with for a long time, but you got to learn to be a good listener. Being a good listener is a key to success, right? You might say to me, Sam, hey, I want to paint that wall purple. And I'm like, the old me would be like, we ain't painting that wall purple, but like, I really need to understand why you want to paint that wall purple. And we talk it out and we figure it out, and, I think that, those are, being a good listener, learn how to communicate, learning how to manage time. Like, that's a key to success. Making time for yourself. And then, the biggest thing that I still do to this day is give back, I want to continue to make Louisville better. I'm never going to be the mayor in the city, right? I don't do politics. I don't do any of that, right? But I don't have to be the mayor to make Louisville better. So continuing to work on projects that I give back to the community. I mean, we do so much philanthropy work around town. I have my annual turkey stock event that we do every year for Kentucky Harvest, where we collect frozen turkeys every Thanksgiving. I'm on the board now at Racing Louisville and Louisville FC, which I just joined that board over the past month, which they do some amazing things for the West End and soccer and initiatives. So I'm super excited to start working on that here 2025. I'm on the board of the Derby Festival. I mean, obviously they do amazing things for the community, but I think if you're listening out there, like, do stuff like that, right? Because, we started Turkey Stock because I couldn't imagine waking up on Thanksgiving and not having food. And there's so many people out there that don't have that. So I think, like, find something you're passionate about, right? I mean, some people have been affected because their mom had breast cancer, or, their dad has Parkinson's or whatever. But, like, even if you've not been affected by something, find something that you're passionate about to give back and make time to do that, because there's not a better feeling than giving back. And it's like, one of my best friends, Frankie, he has Frankie's family. And just this past weekend, we did all his like angel delivery, and like he basically adopts 750 angels for Salvation Army. And like, I walked in that place on Sunday and I could get over like how many bags of packages are in there of kids that don't have a Christmas.
Wow.
Like, so many people are getting helped by this community of making sure a kid wakes up on Christmas. So it's like, I want, me be able to help Frankie is like a blessing, because I want to continue to do that. So yeah, if you, find something you're passionate about to give back, and there's not a better feeling than giving back.
I think it ties back into the thing you said a bit ago of work hard every day and do something to make people feel good. And if we're focused on making ourselves feel good, it's the prideful sense of, how can I make myself bigger, better? And if you're outward focused, especially, I mean, if we believe in Scripture and we're truly putting others before ourselves, I believe God's going to bless that. So,
yeah,
dude,
no
I
doubt.
can't thank you enough for your time.
Oh, man, thank you.
I'm challenged by you. You told me when we first met, you're like, hey, you ever need anything in Louisville, call me. I'm like, good night. Who can say that? Anything in Louisville? That's wild. But I haven't called you yet. But
I got you.
Thanks for sitting down, dude. Super, super kind. Thanks for your time. And excited to just see the next risk you take. I'm sure you got a bunch on the pipeline ready to roll, and excited to see the next few years.
Yeah, man. We're super excited about 2025. I've got some new projects that I'm working on that, I'm going to spend a lot of time and energy on, but, just continue to make, everything better is the number one goal.
Dude, love it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.